welcome to the 55th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the remaining finales for the spring 2018 season, as well as giving you our final thoughts on the season as a whole. Stay tuned to the end for our final results. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, because we spoil pretty much everything. Also, there's a new podcast feed you can find us on, which is Stitcher. So come check us out over there if you like their podcast app. A link will be in the description of the video and in the podcast feed for that. By the way, my name is Bcom, and if you tickle me, I will say hee hee and prance around like a rainbow lollipop in a cloud of unicorn wishes, which ironically was the ending of Darling in the Franxx. With me today are Kat and Leo.
Yay! Hey, are you selling any of what you're on? Because I'm interested.
Yeah.
I am just on life. I'm high on life. I also ate at like a really famous hot dog stand this morning in my state. It was delicious. I had a Chicago hot dog with like, well, Leo, you're not going to like this, but it had like a full slice of tomato and had a full pickle.
Nope.
It was fucking amazing.
No, I don't.
It was so
I've
good.
never had a whole pickle on a hot dog before, but I feel like the texture might be a little strange. But I won't knock it until I try it.
It was a little weird. I've definitely seen it on Chicago-style hot dogs before, and it's definitely like a thing they do. I usually don't like eating pickles at all, like just on their own, but with the mix of everything that they had on it, it was delicious. I loved it.
Man, speaking of palates, I found somebody else who actually hates fruit worse than me, and he's my shop steward at work. He can't even stomach like a banana or anything like that. Like to him, he said that smells like rotten garbage. And like I don't think any fruit smell bad, but like his is so bad he thinks fruit smells bad. So that's crazy.
Man, it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I should actually do some research into it. This might be a thing.
Each episode will learn a little bit more
of how people's palates can change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be different.
No, that's definitely true. My
different.
palate has changed over time as well.
Yeah, it changes when you grow older. I know that, but then there's just like the extremes, like mine and this other guy's. So. Oh man. So you guys just want to
eaten anything ridiculous
lately?
You really want me to talk? Last night.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
I just made the transition because like it had to happen.
So last night I was with some friends and I was talking about like some past experiences I've had where I've eaten some like spicy peppers, and one of my friends was like, you couldn't do that. And I was like, I can. And I did. And because I don't know, because I'm dumb when I'm drunk. So we went to a specialty shop and we habanero, like we got a package of habanero peppers and they come in like a package of 3. And so I ate them. And then I woke up this morning and I was like, why does it feel like I have swallowed the sun and it is burning pleasantly in my stomach? Then I was like, oh, yes.
Mistakes were made.
Oh, yes, that is correct. That is why. I remember now. So.
Yeah, it's not always terrible, like, at the time you're eating it, but, like, it'll come back to haunt you later. It really will.
I mean, it was a pleasant kind of burning. It kind of felt, like, nice. I don't know.
Well, there's a show this season that was kind of hot. It was called Megalo Box.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of hot. I agree.
So, all right, let me wrap up the final episode for us, and then we can get into some talk and debate about this episode. So, episode 13, Born to Die. That's an odd number already for a show. Of course, the announcers and crowd are stunned by Yuri removing his gear, let alone they are not stunned that he recovered in like 4 days or something retarded when he was basically a burn victim. The match begins with it mostly going in Yuri's favor. And at the end of the round, they comment that Yuri isn't even sitting in between matches and must have like a ton of stamina or something. But Mikio's sitting at home and he's like, that isn't true. He's like, he's just, from all the pain and the loss of stamina from the surgery, if he sits down, he won't even be able to stand back up again. So that's why he's standing. So to me, that sounds like that's even worse. Like, I feel like he would be gone before this match even keeps going on. But like I said, the medical marvels in this world are insane.
Power of will.
Yeah. But anyways, Joe begins to start taking the lead, but then Yuri starts switching up between Southpaw and Orthodox, and it is like just throwing Joe way off. If anybody doesn't know what the difference between like Southpaw and Orthodox is, basically Orthodox is leading with your right hand and Southpaw is leading with your left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like Orthodox is jabbing with your left, Southpaw is jabbing with your right hand, and like having your left hand back to punch with it. Yeah.
I only know the difference because of snowboarding, because it's just which way you lead with.
Oh, right.
So yeah. In the second half, Yukio gets her military contract started up, and when they ask why she had Yuri like remove his gear, or they make some snide comment, she simply replies with, "He didn't need it anymore." So in the end, she finally accepted Yuri's decision, so that's cool. Back into the ring, Sachio notices Yuri keeps dropping his water ball, and Sachio tries to give it back to him, but Yuri doesn't want his pity, and Sachio says it's not that, he just wants him to fight on an equal ground. I was like, that's pretty cool, and he takes the water bottle and whatnot. It goes all the way into the 13th round, and both have become just like so tired. It's a slugfest at this point, and neither of them can even put their guard up, so they're just trading blows, and it's awful. And then at the 21 second mark, both decide to finally go in for the kill, and they both just like lock eyes, and they're like, all right, this is the last punch between the two of us. And they go in, and you see the punches cross, and then the show just doesn't show you who went down.
That's it. Sorry. I'll be quiet.
Yeah, no, you're right. They did that. I'm just like, they're really going to drag this out for the last like 8 minutes of this show.
Yeah, keep you on your toes. Who won?
But the very next scene, you kind of get an indication of who won, because you see Yukio like shedding a tear in the back of her car. So you're like, okay, so Yuri probably lost, and she feels sorry for him.
I think that's the episode where she like gently whispers. It's silent, but like I think she says "I love you" out her car window. I think I said that last podcast, and I meant it about this episode.
Is that what she says?
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. Out of that. Yeah, I don't know. Like Yukiko,
probably like Aishiteru or something like that.
Gets no fucking like conclusion at all to like any of the plot points that she was involved with whatsoever. Like the military thing, you never find out about that. Like, wasn't that supposed to be half the show? Was like about what they were going to do with this gear?
Well, that went through for sure.
Well, but like the whole debate, because she doesn't want it to be used for military stuff, and they want to use it.
Well, that only came up. That only came up in the last episode, right?
No, so she's selling it as a assistance tool to help with their like, but she doesn't want it to be combined with weapons technology. And I'm like, you're selling it to the military.
She's selling it to the military.
What did you think was going to happen? Like, I don't know what level of like naive
she would have been better to sell it to like construction companies, right?
Yeah, sure.
That would have been way better. But I guess the military will be more money. But yeah, and that was only brought up like last episode, I think. So like, there was like no time to really ponder about that. So like that's like season 2. Like, what happens with this?
Also, when you come up with a technology, I really don't think you have any control over how it ends up getting used ultimately. Like you can try.
Well, she was the owner of the company.
Well, but you can try, but at some point, like things are going to be used for other ways other than what you intended. Like there's all sorts of inventors in the world who invent something and then they're regretful because they're like, oh, I didn't think about it being used for this, or oh, I didn't think about it being used for that.
Which is interesting because the loudspeaker was invented by a guy, and then the first person to really use it was Hitler, and he felt bad about that.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. So in the end, Hitler was able to like reach more people because he had a speakerphone. So that that's a good real life example. So anyways, back to the show. It jumps to a year later. Nambu has like opened a gym for himself, which is really cool. I like that. Yuri, who is now in a weird wheelchair, we're assuming he's stuck in it. He can't get out of it. Oh no, more wheelchair stuff.
Yeah, because it's like
on.
A year later. So yeah, I assume he's in a weird wheelchair for life.
Yeah, so he's wheelchair bound, and he's hanging out with like all of them now. I guess he basically lives out there with them, is what it feels like. And Joe has retired from boxing since he, basically had the best match of his life ever. You also hear a news announcement about a second Megalonian tournament, and that the championship seat has been vacant since the last one. Got really confused.
I got so confused.
I was like, did they both get like a double KO? And
yeah,
like, is this what happened? whoa, I was like, that, okay. I was like, you surprised me. Okay, well, hold on. We'll get to this. The show ends with like a party and everybody getting drunk and shenanigans and whatnot. And also like Joe and Yuri are seen chatting up like old buddies and stuff. And the show ends with a card saying, 13th round, 2 minutes, 51 seconds, KO, winner, Gearless Joe. If I assume how winning works, doesn't that make you the champion?
Yeah, so my guess is either...
Is there some weird rule in boxing I'm not aware of?
No, he would have been the champion, of course. Like,
but then why are they saying it's vacant?
My guess is that he either refused it, he either refused the championship, or Yukiko refused to give it to him. That's my two guesses.
Why not fucking say that?
I know, like, they should have probably told us because it's important either way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, if Yukio actually had like an honest good reason, I'd be like, okay, but we all know Joe's the winner, and so did everybody in the show. But if he turned it down and he said something like, I don't know, smarmy, like, it wasn't about the championship, it was just about the match.
It was just about me.
Yeah, I'm not, okay. Even that would have been better than just this. I don't get it. Or is this a mistranslation? Possibly. I don't see that.
I don't think so.
I can't see it being that. That's so
it's
crazy.
such a weird.
Know.
That was one of the weirdest parts of the ending of this show.
No, okay.
Like, I didn't
get it.
That
wasn't one of the weirdest parts. Okay, there were a lot of fucking weirdest parts. Like, okay, first of all, they're just like, oh, well, Yuri's in a wheelchair. We're not going to tell you why, and we're not going to show you how the fight ends or like how he ended up getting so crippled. But he's in a wheelchair.
We're left to assume that like. Because of the surgery and immediately going to a boxing match, his body just couldn't take it. But I'm like, why did his legs give out then?
Left to assume this is the climax of the show.
I know it sucked. It sucked.
Was supposed to be the ultimate of the show. This was supposed to be the entire point.
The fight was great. The fight was
great
until the final blow.
It wasn't great.
And then they just fucking shit
What
on
are
it.
you talking about? The fight even wasn't great. They cut straight to the 4th round of the fight. They don't even show you the beginning of the fight. Then they just like do flashes where they'll show you like a little bit of animation. Then it'll be like, and then some time passed and now we're in the 7th round. And then they'll do like,
I don't know. I feel like they spent a decent amount of time on like the 3rd and 4th match rounds or whatever. And then I was fine with that fast forward because I don't want to sit here and watch all these rounds up to the 13th round. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's not enough ideas to do that.
It's just the way they did it was just so... It's like they're phoning it in. They're just like, we can't be bothered to show you the actual fight. So we're just going to show you these still shots of like parts of the fight. And then we're not even going to tell you the end.
They ended with the slugfest, though. And I liked that. That was cool. Because you're in the 13th round. The punches are going to be pretty sloppy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I like that. I thought I was fine with it. I still think maybe the best match I saw just visually was the very first one when he threw it, because they were doing the slow motions and then they had like the gear sparking on each other. And that looked so amazing. And there wasn't a single match like that the rest of it. That's what really got to me.
The entire last fight, I was bored out of my mind. I kept hoping they were going to do better. They never did. I was disappointed. I was like, I watched this whole 13 episodes for this, and this is what they give me. I was upset. Also, the only, like, I will say they had like a shot of Yuri's like feet as he's like doing the footwork at one point that was really cool, like really well animated. But the rest of that fight did not feel well animated to me. Like, I don't know if you guys felt differently, but to me, the last fight, I was just like, I felt like they were phoning it in. Like, I really didn't feel like they put a lot of effort into that last fight at all. The whole thing with Yukiko, like, they never resolve it. Like, they show you this scene where she's like selling it to the military guys, but then they never resolve that whole plot arc within this anime,
which didn't pop up until like what was going on last episode. But then there was only the mention where we saw the military guy in the booth with her, and we didn't learn anything at that point, which was like 11 or 10 maybe.
Well, I've been saying since,
but we know what your favorite match was.
Yeah,
anyways,
I've been saying
Kat,
since episode like 3 that there has to be another point to the gear, because they wouldn't make like a show about gear if they didn't have another use for it other than sports. You remember that, right? So like I felt like it was very important to the whole anime as a whole. But then they just dump it.
And they're at fault for bringing it up way too late in the show. Right? Because we didn't know anything about it, and as Bcom mostly assumed, it was like the gear was actually there to be like, you know, man versus machine type of deal, and then that really wasn't. Kind of not. It went in a different direction than what we assumed, because then Yuri took his off, and it was just like man against man.
Yeah, let me talk about that. Like,
okay,
at
go
the
for
end
it.
of the day, like the show just did not tell a cohesive story with like a message that I was expecting it to. Like all throughout this anime, I was expecting, oh, it's going to be like a popular uprising against like this corporate like military complex, like overlords or something. Like we're going to get a lot of that, and then like we didn't. And then like then it was going to be like a gearless guy versus like a biomechanical man, but then Yuri takes off the gear, and then it's just two guys who really just want to fight each other. Like Joe has like a death wish, as evidenced by like driving at the cliffside with his motorcycle all the time,
multiple times.
And then in the end, right, he's just doing that jig set to like that really weird music, which must be a throwback to Ashita no Joe, I
which
assume.
is my least favorite on the soundtrack.
Yeah, it has to be a throwback to the old
so
show. I can't imagine it not being.
It must be. Yeah,
because it's so bad. Cool. Otherwise, that music is terrible.
Oh man,
it was so out of place with the rest of the music in the show. I was like, what is this?
And then Yuri, he just wanted to follow his trainer's advice to like give his life meaning by fighting a worthy opponent, and like that's all this show came down to, all after like all the setup. And then like like Kat and Leo were saying, like everything with Mikio like didn't really get resolved, and I didn't really understand what moral ground she was trying to stand on by selling her stuff to the military, but then telling them like, no, I just want you to like use it with your soldiers. They can like carry weapons with it, but like I don't want to build the weapons into it because that would be really bad. It's like, no, they're still going to use it to like carry heavy weapons, and like shoot them at people and kill people. Like, I don't know what the difference is at the end of the day. Like you're just
like there wasn't a clear like meaning or theme that the show had. Like if it was to come down like and have a good fight and like fight this person that is really like your equal or whatever, then they failed at that because they didn't even show you the last fight, pretty much. So they failed at that. If they were going to do the whole thing of like this new technology and how it's going to be used in the end and all that, they failed at that. And if that
had been in the show, it'd been so much better.
Yeah, and if it was going to be about like man versus machine and man winning and it being better to not rely on machines, they pretty much failed at that too. Because like in the end,
because. Yeah, as soon as Yuri took off his gear, well, that went out the window. But, like, I think you just can't... I enjoyed the show, and I think if I had just turned my brain off more, like a Busou Shoujo Machiavellianism watch, I would have just, like, so much enjoyed this. Because, like, when I know I show this to a couple of my buddies who... they don't really care for anime, but if I say, hey, you need to watch this one show from last season, they'll check it out. They will love this because they will not read into as much as I do, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, that was fucking amazing!" And I'm just going to go, "Yeah," and then just not bring up the other finer points with them.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, you can enjoy this anime on like an aesthetic level. Like, it has an amazing soundtrack. It has like a beautiful art style that's like a throwback to like the '90s. Like, it's just got a propulsive momentum to it. But at the end of the day, like, if they were going to really tell this story about like the military like transaction at the end, if that was going to be a big part of it, Aragaki should have been the main character of this anime.
Yes!
Because that would have made so much more sense.
Oh, having
Aragaki
his AI?
is the one with the PTSD from the being overseas in Iraq.
You're singing my song,
like, that could have tied in.
You're singing my song.
I know you would love this, Kat. Like, but that, I actually wonder if that was like a kernel that they had and they just didn't really put it together before the end. Like, maybe somebody wanted Aragaki to then be the main character at first, and that's why the military thing was like such a big part of the show at the end. That was just like a leftover of the story. I don't know, because like I think it makes way more sense if Aragaki is the main character.
Well, even if it wasn't Aragaki, Mikio could be the main character because he had the rival gear to Yukio's, and it was AI based, which is just a whole nother way that the show could have gone.
Yeah.
But
and again, it could have used like 12 more episodes.
Introduced at the end this idea that like in the end you have to enjoy life or whatever. And I guess that can be the theme, but like the entire show up until the last episode was not about that in any fucking way.
No.
So it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Like I did also really like the style. Like overall the style was good. But I just got
I love the style.
Pissed off because like episode 11 was awesome and episode even 12 was okay, and then I was like I mean, I didn't like the way they were going in episode 12, but episode 11 was so amazing that I was like, maybe it won't end badly. Maybe like all the criticism will end up not being true, and then they just shat the bed. I don't know. Like it,
all four tires went flat.
If this anime, and I know this anime was an attempt to get people to watch Ashita no Joe, then like it failed miserably. Because now, before I always thought Ashita no Joe was amazing, and now I'm just watching this and going, if this is based on Ashita no Joe, then maybe Ashita no Joe is not as good as I thought it was. And like, I mean, they just basically did the opposite of what they set out to do, at least with me. I don't know.
Well, for me, it's like, now I want to go watch Ashita no Joe to see if it's like way better than this show. Like,
oh, man.
That's how I feel at the end of the day. Like a good friend of the podcast, Brains, said, as a last thought, he told me that Ashita no Joe, if you're looking for like a deeper story, with the same level of boxing, like go watch that show because that's what it is. Apparently, that's according to him. So okay. But I trust him. So
well, darlings, let's talk about another show.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh loud.
Yeah, I would like to throw a warning to the listeners before we get into this. Episode 23, not too bad, but for episode 24, Bcom did write 3 pages worth of notes.
I would start taking
hunker down. I hope everybody's comfy.
I would start taking some shots of tequila like now, and like just get ready for the rant to come. Okay, listeners.
All right, okay. A great cat. Buffer us in.
All right, so at the beginning of episode 23. Mitsuru and Kokoro decide to stay behind because they're having this baby and it's Mitsuru's responsibility to help take care of Kokoro. Oh, also, they're leaving...
I'm fine with that.
I mean, it's fine. Whatever. But also, they're leaving 002's lifeless body behind. The rest of the gang go off into space, and I guess the Klaxosaurs, like... left that spaceship and all the gear for them, like hoping they would join in the fighting, which is interesting.
Well, the Klaxor princess did say she was going to then put the fate of Earth into their hands.
Well, but like when?
When did
they leave it for them? Like, did some Klaxosaurs show up like a couple days after the last battle, like, and just drop it there? And then they're like, oh, I wonder what that is. We'll just leave it there for now. Like, I don't know.
Don't, Kat, you're questioning too much.
I'm thinking too much. Don't you know you're not supposed to think with the show? Anyway.
Also, another anime where a bunch of friends jumped in spaceships and borrowed alien technology to go into space and fight the aliens. A little show called Gurren Laga I. Just saying. That's Gurren Laga I reference number 1.
True.
We'll keep count.
My final thought on this show pretty much covers all that. So wait till that.
Okay. I will hold back then.
Oh my gosh. And so they get into space and you see that they all have new gear to like make it so they can fight in space. Also provided by the Klaxosaurs. And then you get this shot of the Earth in the background as they test out their like new space gear. And the Earth is pink for some reason.
Well, okay, remember, it's basically barren, so it may
it's
appear...
like all desert.
I guess.
So it could appear pinkish.
I was like, why is the Earth a big ball of bubblegum? Okay. But
I thought it was brown. Maybe your monitor had some bad like color settings.
To me, it looked pink.
I thought it was pretty brown.
I saw like a red-blue mix, but I'm assuming, red Earth. You got the blue oceans, so you get the pink in the middle. Maybe I don't know.
Leo, this is what it is. 02 dyed it in her colors, which are pink. That's what happens.
Oh god.
Oh my gosh.
Settle
You
in.
are so passive aggressive
Kat.
on this show, Bcom. I pity whatever woman
You haven't seen anything
whatever
yet. I'm
woman
just
you
getting
end
started.
up with in your life. I pity her because her life is going to be full of passive
Oh, I would
aggression.
never treat a woman I cared about
I don't
like
know.
this. I would
That's
never
just-
do
Well, no,
that.
just having to deal with you on a regular basis, daily
That's
basis.
true. Like, they would have to have the patience of a saint. This is true.
You would introduce her, and everybody would be like, "We're so sorry for you." She's like, why does everybody keep saying that?"
Okay, so Hiro pairs up with the blonde 9 guy called Alpha, who's still sick from not being able to get quote unquote maintenance any longer. Like, and they never really tell us what that is. So whatever the fuck that is. And
Probably just like that yellow blood injections or whatever the fuck that was.
yeah, and then you get like sexy shots of like Alpha like kneeling over in the sex doggy style position. And you know, it's that basically this scene is there, I think, for like the yaoi lovers who are like, "Oh my god, Hiro fucking a guy." You know.
But also, like, given everything up to this point about, like, you need a male and female to pilot a FranXX, it's like, okay, so I guess 9 Alpha is genderless based on, like, another episode, but maybe he's transgendered. It's so unclear. Like, the anime makes it so unclear what it's trying to say about
Maybe
9
he's
Alpha.
bi, and they could. Oh wait, no, the show dropped on that too.
But they said they needed female organ, like male and female organs, like specifically in one episode.
I think that what
So
the
he would have
show
to
is
be-
trying to say is that you can be bi or gay, but eventually you're going to have to settle down and have babies, okay? But have your fun first.
Yes.
I think that's the idea that the show is trying to say, which is
I think
so
the problem is
problematic.
we're thinking way too much on all these shows.
But like the show begs you to think about this stuff.
I know,
like it makes
I know.
the metaphor so clear, like
All right.
that it's like, oh, of course this is what this means, right? I guess.
Cat, get through this.
Okay,
so until we get to Bcoms, because he's going to be a minute.
3 hours
Yeah,
later.
so Alpha's
Exactly.
all like, "You want to see 02 again? I know you do. So give me all you got so you can see her again." And I guess by give him all he's got, he means like fuck him like into space so that they can go defeat the
Yeah.
worms. I don't know.
Go deep.
Go deep, baby. and then
Go deeper and deeper and deeper. Oh wait, that's next episode.
oh baby.
Yes,
yeah,
it
and
is.
then Hero's like, "You feel the same as 02." And I'm just like, dude, like, is this like one of the porns with twins where they're like, "You feel the same"? Something.
Yep. Well, they are clones. You know, they're clones
As
of
he
02,
points
so they would
out.
feel the same.
Sure.
Man.
So meanwhile, on Earth, Mitsuru is taking care of 02 and having a crisis about losing her identity as a person now because, you know, now that she's a mom, she can't be a person and a mom. Like, that would be ridiculous. So...
Oh, you mean Kokoro?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think I wrote the wrong name. But yeah, Kokoro is on Earth taking care of 02 and basically like, I can't have a job and I can't be who I was before because I can't obviously be a person and a mom. And I'm just like, okay. And then back in space, the gang find the Verm fleet and the Apis. I'm going to call it the Apis. I don't know if that's, or is it Opus? I think it might be Opus.
I think it's Apis. Apis, yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was just apes because that's how it's spelled.
There's definitely a U in
I
there.
think it's Apus from The Simpsons.
Maybe.
They find the Apus.
So the Verm are trying to kill the Apis while the Klaxosaurus try to defend it. And like one of the gang comments that like, oh, the Apis can't do anything without a stamen, aka a man, and it's just useless and like it's totally like helpless until Hiro comes and joins her because, you know,
It's true.
I was
what they're
almost
saying.
surprised you went there, but then I'm like, no, she's right.
That's
actually
such
very
a
bad
huge-
that the show is saying
I
that.
mean, it's such an obvious metaphor. It's like she's just helpless until Hero comes to save her. Like,
Literally comes.
yes. And I'm just like, are you kidding? I don't know. So Hero and Alpha finally make it to the entrance of the Apis, but suddenly a huge verm ship like shows up and is like, oh, I'm gonna fight you. I'm not gonna let you like go into the Apis. And Alpha at this point is just like, yes, here is my chance to dramatically sacrifice myself so I don't have to live a peaceful life later on Earth, because wouldn't that just suck balls? Like, I don't want that. And so he pushes Hero into the Apis and then just rushes off to explode like onto the verm ship. Like in some useless...
Bury your days.
Assuming he was going to die anyways without maintenance, which he could no longer get. I mean, what better than a kamikaze pilot, right?
I mean, come on. It's shitty. It's a useless and overly dramatic death.
It is.
It's dumb.
No, you're right.
Like,
Also like Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, you hadn't seen that until just recently, right?
I watched
Bcom?
Gurren Lagann this week, which was the perfect time to watch it.
And were you watching it and going like, wait, FranXX did that? And then you're like, oh, wait, no.
Yeah.
Lagann did this first. That's right.
I was more like, FranXX copied this, but made it worse. FranXX copied this, but did it worse.
oh my gosh. But yeah, no. So then on Earth, you get this shot of like 02 getting into like the doggy sex position because she's preparing to fuck Hero in space because like Hero's inside her now. Then it gets all dramatic and like weird tentacle knife things come out of the console in space. And I half expected Hero to be like, ooh, fuck me with your tentacles, 02. But instead, he's like, eat me, 02, because,
Eat me.
you know, that's obviously the natural thing to do in that scenario. You just want her to eat you. Okay. I don't know. And then there's a scene where Hero is in 02's mind. And it's basically like the picture book world. And I guess she's like, I don't want you to pilot the Apis because we'll both die and you won't be human anymore. And he's like, even if I die, I don't care. I'd rather be with you because this show is so emo. And, you know, it's fine. So, I don't know. The Verm, throughout this whole dramatic event, keep insisting that the rest should join them because everything will be all peaceful and great. But then the two Guardian, like, people, like the girl and the guy, who also came into space with them, by the way, are like, no, conflict is good and makes people stronger and better. And so that's why they're not going to join with you, because that's what we decided. And I'm like, is this supposed to be the main theme of the show that they're talking about right now? Like, is this what they're trying to... Like, because it kind of felt like this was a theme or something that they were putting up there.
The great question is what they were trying to tell the whole fucking time.
I don't know. I mean, this has to be one of the bigger themes because, like, they're making it...
Yes, Bcom?
So there's this show called Gurren Lagann, where at the end, the anti-spirals tell the spiral warriors basically that, like, no, we had to sacrifice like our individuality to protect the entire galaxy as a whole. So we all had to be the same and be very tranquil and peaceful and live in perpetuity in that way. And the spiral warriors are like, fuck that, row, fight the power, and then they just beat the shit out of them, and that's how that show ends. It's very much the same as this show. That's all I'm saying. It's like exactly the same.
Well, at least one main character survives in that show. Spoilers.
That's true.
Sure.
And he gets very cool by the end.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, that was the first... I think I've said it once already, but that was the first anime to make me shed a tear.
There were multiple times watching that show I felt emotional, and never during this show did I feel emotional. Besides, anger and hatred.
So, in other words, we're telling you to go watch Gurren Lagann instead of this show with your
I feel like this
spare
anime
time.
is telling you to go watch Gurren Lagann. I feel like everybody who worked on this was like, man, when we made Gurren Lagann, that was really cool, guys. We should, like, try to do that again, but not put any work into it. Let's do it, guys. We can do this. I'm so excited. High five.
Oh my gosh.
This is
Bcom
such a
is
negative
just,
episode of our
Look
podcast.
at how much he just leeches like his angry passive aggressiveness. Like, and I love you, Bcom.
This is peak hate watching at this
Oh
point for
my
me.
gosh.
Like peak hate watching. Like I'm getting so much out of this. Like yes, this is true. I'm feeding off the energy.
So meanwhile, Kokoro on Earth is taking care of Zero Two's lifeless body still, but this time she's all sad and emo and is like in the rain, like just getting soaked.
Yeah.
And Mitsuru comes out and is like, I'll stay in the rain and be dramatic with you, Kokoro, because I love you, even if I don't remember. And then suddenly Zero...
Then they yell each other's names back and
Yes.
forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Mitsuru!
Kokoro! I'm like, God damn it!
Well, the idea is that, like, you know, they've had that mental block put in it. Like, physically pains them to say each other's name, but they love each other so much that they will scream each other's names out regardless of that
when
pain.
did this anime become as emo as an AFI song? Like, when did that happen?
Episode 1.
No, okay, that did
That's
not
when it
happen.
did.
That had to happen in like the last quarter of the show because I don't remember any of these weird emo themes into the last quarter of the show.
It's definitely, like, hugely enhanced in the last, like, 4 or 5 episodes. Yeah.
It's weird.
Like, emo city, emo arc.
Weird.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so then suddenly Zero Two's body turns black and then turns to stone because she's becoming one with Hiro. The Apis turns into the true Apis. And it just becomes a giant 02. Like literally, it's 02 as a giant in space. That is what it is now. Like she's huge. She's huge. And Hiro is inside of her. Like, okay, so the other darling pilot like things are literally the size of like her eye. So think about how fucking big 02 is now. Like, how is Hiro ever gonna fuck her if they get out of this? Because like she can't go back to her other body. It's stone.
There's a little anime called Gurren Laga I where there's a character named Nia Teplin who is a giant floating in space. I'm so pissed.
Do you see the viciousness, listeners? Anyway, so she's huge now. Also,
buy your model kits, everybody. Buy your model kits of 02 in space.
Oh my god, she does look really pretty.
And her outfit is just also such a wedding dress.
It kind of is.
It has like the veil like flowing behind her on top of her head.
The veil.
Sorry, the veil. Yes,
the veil. I didn't know she had a cut of meat like floating from her head. The veil.
That would have been interesting.
When her face, like the boobs, when they first popped, I was like,
okay,
wow.
No, okay.
But then when her face came into the view, I could not believe this. I just sat here and I went, literally, show, this is what you went with? What the fuck?
So they like, not only has she gotten huge, her boobs have also gotten way bigger. Like somehow she has much bigger boobs. Like, I don't know. Did you guys notice that? Like her boobs got way bigger.
Like
Yes.
Okay, so they say, they're like, all right, this mech is going to transform and 2 parts of her are going to be human. What are we going to do? Well, the face is the more obvious one. Okay. What other part? Boobs. Oh. Are you sure? Yes, the boobs, the chest area, and all that. Make it human. She's a mech. Oh, okay. That's what we're doing. Why? God
She's
damn.
a real human being.
But she doesn't even look like a mech.
And she's fucking Hero.
She doesn't even look like a mech though. She just looks like a person in space with like another person inside of her. Like not like the sex way.
Yes.
Literally inside her. Cause he's like in her. Like, I don't know. Anyway. Okay. So they destroy most of the verms, like in this part of space, just like in one fair sweep. They're just like, she just points her finger like at the sky and they all die instantly, basically. And then a warp gate suddenly appears between two satellites. And 02 and Hiro are like, oh yeah, guys, we're like totally leaving the solar system now, okay? Bye. And they explain this plot change away as the gate system and the Apis are linked, so we can't stop it now. And like are basically like, oh, this is the only way. But like it's not really the only way. Like I'm pretty sure there are a lot of options. Like
I don't know. I think they have to move in on, the Verm before they can possibly attack again. I mean, they're taking the fight to their home.
Well, but like it doesn't,
basically,
to skip ahead a little, it doesn't even end up working in the end. Like it would have been no different had they just at this point, now that they've destroyed all the Verm in this part of the galaxy, been like, well, we killed them all out in this part of the galaxy. Let's head back home for now. And then they just gone home. It would have been no different than how it turns out. Because like they didn't end up destroying them anyway in the end.
Kind of. Yeah, we got to say that for the next episode.
Sorry. But like it's pointless. Just letting everyone know. This whole plot twist is pointless.
The show is pointless, everyone.
Yes. So they must have wanted it to turn out this way, I'm assuming, because it's the most emo thing they could have done. Because two people dying together in a dramatic way is much more emo than them going home and being happy.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can
emo.
decide. That's the only thing I can think as to why they made that decision. What do you think, Bcom?
Okay.
Oh no! You asked the wrong question.
I don't know about that question. Like, honestly, like, I don't know what I would have done differently here. At this point, it was all down the drain. Like, I can't even tell you.
But
Just made a different show from the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the end of that episode. They go into the gate thing, and that's the end. So
Yeah.
So honestly, it's been a very long time since I've seen Gurren Lagann. And so like I'm sitting here and as I'm watching the show, there was so many different instances. I'm like, I've seen this before. That kept popping up, and then you bringing them up and like specifically pointing them out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That did happen in that show. No wonder I looked at it going, this is really familiar to me. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, but I guess Bcom, here's the mic.
oh no,
Take it away.
Take
for
another
episode 24.
tequila shot, listeners.
Right.
Get ready.
I'll say two quick things about episode 23 before episode 24. Like the only two weird things I've noticed, like remember like Nana and Hachi, they get on the big ship, right? And Nana was like in a wheelchair before this episode, like barely able to
There are
walk.
scenes of her standing after going to support the kid.
Yeah, but it's like then she seems to be just like completely fine now. I guess she's just totally recovered somehow because she has like a new purpose in life, I guess. I don't know.
She was just recovering. That's all it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
assuming. As she just had to recover.
Yeah.
And then Goro apologized to Hiro for punching him in the face, which I was like, Goro, you shouldn't apologize for that. Never apologize for that. That was like the best moment of this anime.
For that situation, acceptable, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I will jump into episode 24 now, which was called Never Let Me Go. So, right, 02 refers to her and Hiro's travel through this warp gate as their honeymoon, which makes sense.
Man.
Because like Leo was saying before, like she's in Strelitzia looking like it's a wedding gown at this point.
Well, also, I don't know, like, that's the shittiest honeymoon ever. But also, have you noticed that, like, in this episode, the last episode, this wasn't the case. This episode, now Hiro magically has blue eyeliner to match 02's red eyeliner. Because they weren't emo enough.
What was that ogre thing you were talking about, Bcom?
The blue Oni and the red Oni story. Yeah.
Yeah, do you remember a scene at the end of this episode? It's so fucking glaringly obvious. It like almost made me mad. I'm like, really? You didn't think people figured it out by now?
There's a lot of things at the end of this episode where I'm like, really? You didn't think people figured this out? We'll get to that. Oh my god. I have
Oh, please,
Also,
please don't.
first of all, let me
Okay.
just make a quick side note here. They talk about how they're not eating or sleeping for like years. And they're like, well, It's because you're a Klaxosaur now. I'm pretty sure Klaxosaurs still have to eat and like sleep.
Well, they never showed them having to.
I don't know. They're kind of immortal. I don't know if they have to eat or not.
As long as they had access to some type of magma, I think they were okay.
But they don't have access to magma either. Like, they're not magic. Like they have to follow science. There has to be fuel.
Are you
there
kidding?
Has to be fuel.
They're fucking magic at this point.
You can't just go years and not eat and not like have some sort of fuel source and just be like, we're totally fine. We didn't need all that now because we're Klaxosaurs. Sorry.
They just
pissed me off.
What was the total amount of years they actually went? Was it like 7?
By the end, it's like 700. Well, it was like 780 days or something. 783 days.
It's a 2-year.
Which is like 3 years.
It's a 2-year journey to the planet that they do the final fight on.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a long time. But they have the blood sugar sex magic from Red Hot Chili Peppers, so it's okay. They can do it.
Maybe that's what it is. Sure.
Oh boy.
So they're like basically invincible at this point because Hiro is so deep inside of her that like nobody could beat him. Then 72 days have passed back on Earth, and Kokoro is getting like very preggers at this point. They've made it back to Mistletoe, their old base, because of like the fertile soil there. And like Kokoro's baby basically represents like the future of Earth. So everybody's like kind of pampering her, and also like she's kind of like developed into this motherly figure. Like she's showing people how to knit and all of this stuff. Like she's like basically like the Virgin Mary or something.
She kind of is. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jesus. Because she doesn't remember having sex. No. Think about it. She doesn't remember having sex. So it's like a virgin conception. Oh, God. No.
So, yeah, it was strange hearing Goro's voice a little bit in this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed it, because his voice actor was Yuichiro Umehara, who we've talked about before. He was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and so for a bunch of his parts this past season, he had to be replaced by another voice actor. And I don't know, for some people it didn't seem to be, but for me it was a little jarring, because the new voice actor had a bit deeper voice than Goro usually does. And so I was like, man, just watching these episodes back to back, I was like, yeah, that sounds like a little off for Goro, because Goro had a very discernible voice for me. So I don't know, like I kind of hope that like one day they might redub that part, but I don't know. I mean, like it's hard to say if they ever will. It's just he doesn't have that many speaking roles in this episode anyway, so it wouldn't be that hard to redub it. But anyway. Time jumps forward to then 245 days after the gate passage, and Kokoro has given birth. And so Mitsuru is there, and he cries with happiness.
Oh, but that's the only crying going on, because the baby doesn't cry at all, which is not the way it happens in real life, let me tell you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't compare this show to real life.
The first person to congratulate both of them is Futoshi, who calls Mitsuru Papa Number 1. And like I just felt like nothing in the series before this point like made this reaction feel realistic or authentic. Like I don't know, like Futoshi's arc has been such a weird roller coaster of him like accepting that he is not wanted and therefore he should just support another guy with the girl who he loves. I guess, which is fine, I guess, but
I see why they chose him to greet Zeromi first, though.
Yeah,
not Zeromi, Mitsuru.
Oh, whatever. Mitsuru. Yeah. I get that. Yes,
I get that, but you know, Futoshi gets his own moment in the end, so he moved on. So
yeah,
good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for the other. Good for the other straight person that gets to move
on. Even Leo's come around. Yeah, I love it. That's great. So they finally learn of this facility that contains all the failed like parasites, like the pilots, like the FranXX pilots in stasis. Like they're on ice basically, and they then like go to release all of these people. I don't know why it took like 245 days for them to find them and for this to happen, but I guess it did. That seems like an excessively long time for them to wait.
Maybe it took was it Nana and
Hachi or whatever. Well,
Hachi
they were in space for a while, and then they came back. Yeah.
Well, actually, that was only like a week, I think.
Yeah,
is what it felt like.
I guess it was hard to tell at the end. I think you're right though. Yeah.
Also, best girl in the show, Nara. Come on.
She's a pretty good girl. I like her. Yeah.
She far outweighs everybody else.
So Goro decides to go off on his own and kind of act as an explorer on Earth, trying to save any other like children who may need his help. And Ichigo kind of sees him off, and she just wants to give him like a fist bump to see him off. Like Ichigo is just like, I don't. Yeah, Goro just like plants a kiss on her. Goro finally like makes a move, and like she turns like bright red and stuff, and like. I don't know. I felt this kiss was like empty and pointless, but I'm sure some people liked it. I guess.
You say felt like make a move, and I'm just like, wait, whereas him and Ichigo actually progressing to this point? When did they get to the point where like he could put a kiss on her without it being fucking sexual assault? I mean,
it's a big question.
We missed a couple of scenes where this was leading up to that.
Also, like when you kiss someone and then you're like, see ya, I won't see you for another like 6 years, but think about that kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Like what point is there?
Oh man,
I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So then there's another time skip, and this brings us to 2 years or like 783 days since Zero Two and Hiro passed through the gate. And so now they're nearing the enemy's home planet, and both of them are pretty worn down from constantly fighting the Verm on their way. And Hiro is like particularly weak, and Verm have held back like their biggest weapon, like Hring Horny or whatever, for this moment, right? It's like the big spear that they took from Earth. And unfortunately, Hiro has become a sleepy boy because Verm has, quote, caressed his surface consciousness.
He's become a sleepy boy.
He's a sleepy boy. And it's cut off his communication with Zero Two, basically. And so Zero Two is on her own, and because she's a woman and can't do anything on her own without a man, she's pierced through by Hring Horny. And then because she's a woman and can't do anything without anybody else, she begs people back on Earth to save her darling.
So that she can fight again, because obviously only with a man's help can she fight the Verm. Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Right.
And so
also... With the what they do at this point, the linking thing is complete fucking stupid nonsense. How the fuck did anybody know how to do this?
It had no point
Please
either.
Explain.
It like they didn't even really help him, because in the end it was Zero Two being like, wake up, that wakes him up. It's not them like shouting nonsense while
she's
holding
like,
hands.
I feel their prayers and their dreams and some shit like that, and I'm like, what?
Let me set the stage for this.
Is religion suddenly like a solidified real thing in this universe now?
It really did kind of come out of nowhere.
It was weird.
Remember they used to pray to Papa, and then when they realized that like they could just live on their own without Papa, they could like make their own food, they were like, we don't need to pray to him anymore. And now they pray for their friends. So I guess that's like kind of progress, I suppose. But yeah, the way this all happens is that Kokuro's baby girl is like 2 years old now or whatever, and she's sitting by the weird rock statue of Zero Two that was formed out of her body when she like whizzed off into space to combine with Hiro. And the daughter's name is Ai, which means love, because of course that's her name. And then she starts yelling the words like darling, darling, and pointing at the statue for like Mitsuru and Kokoro to see. And then they tell everybody else what's happening, and I shit you not, they all fucking link hands and pray with the Zero Two statue for like 2 days. Like, night and day they pray with this statue.
Did this show suddenly turn into like a cult or something on us? Like,
well,
what
and it's not like they're just silently like holding hands and like praying. They're like shouting like random things.
Yeah.
They're like talking about like going hoarse from yelling, and I'm just it's
weird.
Insanity.
It's weird.
Complete insanity.
Also, if you really want to go Horse Girl's pretty derby. It's a very good show you could watch.
Oh my God,
instead of the show. It's very
Shut your mouth.
We'll get to that later.
And finish the show.
Somehow
No way,
002
master.
and Hiro can hear the voices of these people way off in space, or at least 02 can. I don't know. And the thing that gets through to... I know Hiro can hear it, because the thing that gets through to him is Mitsuru is explaining that they named their child Love, because we didn't already know that, after the bond that 02 and Hiro have together. Like, Kokoro's child is named after the love that 02 and Hiro have.
And I was just thinking, wouldn't you name it after the love that you discovered with each other? Not that another couple
because he's gay and he doesn't actually love her.
Don't they have like another child also?
They have four. They have four kids.
Kokoro? Oh,
I think
they do
he's bi.
later.
They have
They
four
do
kids.
later.
Pretty sure he's bi.
They have 4 kids together.
No.
Well, they will.
No, Futoshi.
After,
Futoshi.
Yes. Oh, Futoshi
ha-
has like 2 or 3.
He
and
has
a third
4
on the
because
way,
they
I
say
think.
he has another 4th on the way, and Mitsuru has like a second child that you see. They don't say, but you see.
Yes.
So like he's bi. He is bi for sure.
Well, yeah, at this point, you have to assume that he's like converted at least, or like he was
Converted.
bi. Yes.
Okay.
and
yeah.
also, prayer extends light and sound speeds, so it can get to another universe in 3 days.
So, as Zero Two and Hiro speak with each other, they're like rebuilding their connection, and they're saying that they were attracted to each other by nature, and then their kiss tied them together. And then Zero Two says, in the line that really pissed me off the most, because like she just says it out loud, like, "It's time for us to become one. We are the Jian."
Oh God,
I couldn't
it's
handle
so bad.
this. For 24 episodes, they've been shoving this Jian bird metaphor like down our throats. The entire show, they've been showing us like this flapping white bird with like, I only have 1 wing, so I need another one to fly. And then like at the end, instead of just like showing us through visual metaphor, they literally just have them yell out to each other like, "We are the John," as if like to the audience they're saying like, "Don't you guys get it? Like, do you get it yet? That they are the John bird?" I don't know if you got this because we've repeated it every
No,
episode
I
up until
totally-
now. But just in case you didn't, the people who like were just turning their brain off and like smoking weed watching
Totally
this shit,
missed it.
Here you go.
It would take more than weed to miss this.
It'd be like
A
unbelievable to
lot
miss this.
more.
Yeah. So somehow their combined love completely repaints the exterior of the Hring Horny like spear in their white and red patterning, because Zero Two says Hiro is dyeing every part of me in his colors. Oh. And so they scream how much they love each other because that's the only thing they're good at doing, and they plunge towards Verm's home planet and they plant the Klaxosaur bomb, and Shirlitza is destroyed, like revealing like the smaller like FranXX like inside of Shirlitza, like the original FranXX, and it's
like all
standing
golden.
there in Gynax pose from Gurren Laga I and like many other Gynax shows.
Gynax pose.
It's then they use this to activate the bomb and like basically commit the genocide of like almost an entire race of people.
Wait.
Except
If you think about it,
they killed their home planet, so I assume they killed a lot of Verm,
but not
right?
all
Like,
of them, because
not
at the
ones in
end
space.
they're like, "Oh, but
Yeah.
not all of us died, and we'll be back, and we'll fight you again." And I'm like, so this whole fucking thing was pointless. And also, I had this thought when like they were blowing up the planet, like, why does a race of beings that have no bodies and are merged together in like eternal consciousness need a planet? Because they don't have bodies.
Yeah, it's true.
And like, how do you
Yeah.
kill something that doesn't have a body? That doesn't make any sense.
true.
You can't physically hurt it with an explosion if it doesn't have a body.
But they will always be here as long as there is other life, as long as this universe exists, is what they say.
Well,
So,
but they killed
yeah.
them.
yeah. So like even with the ending of this show, you're like, they're going to come back.
So basically, them
Yeah.
committing suicide together in a dramatic fashion. Because what's more romantic than committing suicide by a bombing together?
I don't know, the cycle of life.
It is, yeah.
Is this Lion King? I don't know.
This is Lion King.
I just don't
absolutely.
I guess it's just the most dramatic thing they could have done, so they went with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you watch Gurren Lagann, you're sitting there going, eh.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yes.
So
thank
there's
you,
a scene
Bcom.
where Zero and Zero Two are like after they commit suicide, whatever. They're in like a white void talking to each other, with John birds flapping between them, like as more visual metaphor. And they're one, but like Zero Two says if like they'll have souls, they'll meet again on Earth at someday. Basically, is what she says. And like, I don't know, like the Verm dude, like Kat was saying, says like we'll probably meet again at the apex of evolution. Blah blah blah. Like Team Rocket or something.
Team Rocket's blasting off again. Yes.
And I couldn't pay attention because like Hero and Zero Two start flying through space. They're like, they have linked arms. They're glowing. It's like their souls are flying together through space. And then they turn into a John bird just to drive this metaphor home even more. Like, oh my God, it's unbelievable. Back on Earth, Zero Two's body, the stone body statue, breaks into pieces. And there's a new sapling plant growing out of that body.
What kind of tree is it? Tell me.
I don't know. What kind of tree is it, Leo?
It's pink. It has blossoms.
Is it a sakura tree?
Oh shit, you're right.
So the Klaxosaurs then return to Earth and they like dive underneath the surface, which seems to bring new life to the Earth, like perhaps because like they bring all the magma energy back, like it refuels the planet. I guess they just consider their job done at this point. I don't know. Or I don't know if they're going back into like hibernation or something. It's hard to say what happens with them.
I took it as they crash back in the Earth and then they turn their sources to like a magma or a type of giving energy to the Earth, because maybe the reason the Earth turned barren was because they used up all the nutrients and resources.
Right.
So, that's my assumption.
Then 3,705 days pass. Or 8 years.
Oh, so thank you.
This is when all the baby stuff happens. So Kokoro has another baby. Everybody in the society has decided to stop using Klaxosaur energy, and they like make a metaphor for like fossil fuel usage even clearer here, where they're like using renewable wind power. They have turbines.
And it makes you question so much how if the government had a hand in this fucking show.
Well, they're like,
and that's why it got messed up so bad.
They're like us, you know, we don't use this primitive fuel source. We use renewable energy. So.
Mm-hmm.
You got that. Then you also got the baby making.
Yeah, like make like
the
all
baby
the babies that you can.
Yeah.
That was like the end of this show. Like they really drove that home. They're like.
Yeah, Nana and Hachi get a good end too, with Hachi saying that like if they live together forever, maybe he'll continue to like change and like regain his humanity. And they basically sort of just act as the father and mother of this new humanity that's like starting to grow again, because they're like the leaders. Like, and apparently everyone started having sex, by the way, because there are like a ton of children now, like who are all around like 8 years old or a bit younger. And I'm pretty sure, like, so Kokoro and Mitsuru, I think, have 3 children, and it's later confirmed that they're having their 4th now.
Yeah.
So that's so many babies.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, what do you do with that boner? You can't figure it out.
Yeah, I think I think it's kind of realistic that like once you discover sex, like you don't stop having it, you just have a bunch.
Right.
Also, they kind of need to rebuild society, right? Like, so whatever. But like, it's just so over the top because like we get a final scene where like, okay, let's get into this. Then we get the final scene where Ikuno and Ichigo are together, and Ikuno is bedridden because remember she like used the full power of her FranXX, which like drew out a lot of her life
aged
energy.
Her like really badly or something like that.
She has white hair, and so Ikuno is basically dying, but she's like checking on Ichigo's like very pregnant body because Ichigo is pregnant, and like as the medicine and life support besides like Ikuno's bed shows us, like she's not doing well. Futoshi has a mustache now, and he's been like experimenting with cooking. Like he's the cook for like this whole like settlement
bread,
or whatever.
Like, he's the
whatever.
baker, which totally I could see him as a baker. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, sure. One of the final things they say about his character is he hasn't lost any weight at all. So Futoshi's the fat guy.
It's a very Japanese way of looking at weight. It's like because Japanese people are very obsessed with like being thin and being.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So, but yeah, but you know, he moved on from his rejection and got his own wife and his own kids. So it was a happy ending.
Yeah, he has 2 children with a random woman who we've never seen before.
Yes.
And she's pregnant with a 3rd as well. So that's his 3rd child as well. And like I said, Ikuno has been researching X-parasite pilot like aging, and it's helping the others, but maybe not herself because she seems to be not doing well. But like it's helped the other X-parasites out, I guess. So of course Ichigo's baby is with Goro, as you would expect. It's also implied that Ikuno and Naomi, who was the original pilot who flew with Hiro in like the first episode and then went off and was like put on ice basically with the other failed Parasite pilots, they're like a couple because like they're holding hands at like Ikuno's bedside.
It kind of did look like that.
Like it's implied that they are lesbians and that they got together at the end.
Or if anything, just like very, very good friends.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, at the very least. Yeah. It kind of comes out of nowhere for me. And like, so yeah, like a whole bunch of other stuff here. They all stand together looking at the sky at the end of this and list off a whole bunch of lessons that they've just learned from the show. Like, seriously, the writers of this show do not know how to just stop and let people interpret things. Like, they just felt the need to say every lesson they learned. Oh, man. And then...
Because they're assuming you've never seen any of the other shows. Maybe.
I guess so, yeah.
Maybe this is just their way of introducing
then, that sapling...
like all the Gainax shows to a new audience all at once. Like all the really young like anime fans.
I suppose. Yeah. Maybe it's all a long con to make like a really mediocre show that just references all their old shows, and then everybody will go back and buy the Blu-rays for the old shows. That's the long con, I suppose. I don't know.
Maybe that was their plan.
So this, like Leo said, that sapling that grew out of 02's statue we see it grow over like hundreds of years probably, and this huge city skyline forms behind it. And we see that these blue and red lights from space fly into the tree. And then underneath the tree, many years later, a boy who looks just like Hiro and a girl who looks just like 02 meet, and they hold hands, and a new story begins.
Doesn't it take their souls like 2,000 years to get back to Earth or something?
It's pretty insane. But there's also a scene where there's like Nana and Hachi are talking, and they're like, we don't age anymore. So
that's right.
Oh, right.
Eternal.
Yes. They're like the eternal mother and
they're
father.
They're like, we will always be the parents to like everybody, always be the leaders or something like that. So like if they did like another season or something, like they would be important, I guess.
Do you think that they're going to do a second season? If they do, I will be so pissed off.
No.
I can't imagine.
I wouldn't even expect it to be good.
I would be like, how dare you?
So, it's fun to note every non-heterosexual character in this anime has a pretty bad ending. So 9 Alpha and all of the 9s sacrifice themselves or die in battle. Ikuno has Klaxosaur AIDS and is dying. So she at least gets a partner or friend in Naomi, but Naomi has also like lost an arm. So she's not like exactly like doing well. She also can't help with like the reproduction of the species, so like I guess why should she have a happy ending in this show? And then finally Mitsuru is completely converted to like heterosexuality at this point, no matter whatever he was before, and has had like so many babies with Kokoro, it's ridiculous.
I think that's
like,
kind
so,
of like what they're implying is like, well, we don't want to be like discriminatory towards people who are LGBT, but eventually you should have babies or you should get the fuck out. Like that's almost like the vibe I'm getting from this anime.
Like I agree.
You can kind of contribute to society, but like it's not going to be like fulfilling or as happy as like just having babies with boys and girls. Like is sort of the message I got from this. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, like I don't know. It was just such a weird like mess of an episode.
It
like,
was.
Man, it was. Looking back on it, like I just can't believe how crazy this went at the end.
It's not the worst thing I've ever. I mean, come on, it could have been much worse. I've definitely watched a lot of anime that are much worse than this. It was developed well. The animation was amazing. Like it was entertaining to watch. Like it's not like a huge train wreck. It's just kind of a mess at the end.
No.
A little bit.
Well, and also when you compare it to other Gainax and Trigger shows, you just go, this is all recycled stuff we've done.
Yeah, that was the part that was just like really disappointing.
You can apply that to like other anime, but this one's just like glaringly obvious, specifically to just these two studios. And yeah, I'm glad Bcom saw Gurren Laga I and actually saw all the same things I was saying. Just like, I've seen this already. So, and that's the big thing about it, is all that.
And the biggest difference with Gurren Lagann is like there's a big huge cast there of characters, but like you grow to care about like all of those people.
And in Gurren Laga I,
yeah,
you get really attached to those people.
So invested in these people, right? Like,
yes.
And the sense of progression in that anime is like ever persistent, like constant.
So unfortunately, like we say, spoilers, when somebody gets killed off, it fucking hurts.
It's devastating. It's completely devastating. And in this anime, I just never got like attached to these characters because like first I couldn't tell what they were trying to say with the characters, right? And then like some of them like Ikuno and Futoshi didn't really even get like a great arc at all. And then the other ones, like Zorome and Miku, like what are even they? Like, by the way, I didn't mention, like, so they're kind of together at the end, but I guess they don't have kids yet because they're like little brats.
They still fight like usual, even though they're adults. That was dumb. That was dumb as stupid. God damn it. Dumb as stupid. That's not even a fucking phrase, but now
it's like, like what was their arc in this show? Like there was that one interesting episode where Zorome met the older woman in like the underground city, and that like nothing came of that ever. It's so weird. It just like went by the wayside. And then like Miku was just there to be like a fake Asuna from Evangelion or something. I don't even know what she was there for. Like just to be fun, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It just did not come together at the end here, and like paid homage, I guess, to a bunch of other shows, but like all of those shows seem to like understand character dynamics in a way that the show didn't.
Paying homage to them.
Yeah.
It was almost ripping at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like it was not good.
So yeah, that was Darling the FranXX.
Cool. So we covered. That's all the shows we're going to cover right now. So let's go into our finals. But one of us, Bcom, personally. Okay, Bcom and Kat, I didn't because I don't have time to watch anything outside this podcast. Watched a couple other shows, so I'll let you guys tell us about that.
I'm going to start with this one. So I watched Food Wars, the third season, the second cour. And I just want to say, like, I had a lot of fun with this one. Like, the first cour of season 3 was kind of annoying because, like, Irina had this, like, arc with her dad that I just thought was frustrating. It was frustrating to see her like lack like power and confidence, and then she really got it back in this season in a great way. And like all of her interactions with like the Polar Star dorm members as like a mentor and like a teacher and as like a friend were just really nice to see. It felt like everything that the show had been building to was starting to come together. Like one of the only arcs I had like an issue with in this like a couple of episodes was like there's like a couple episodes where like these lollies are judges and just get their clothes blown off, and I was like, Food Wars, not you, not you. Come on, Food Wars.
I honestly don't remember that from the manga.
But oh, really? That's interesting.
The manga is way so much farther ahead. So
yeah, it was probably a while back.
Yeah.
And I also just legitimately enjoyed learning about Soma's like father's past at like the Polar Star dorm and his classmates. That whole thing felt like a little bit like a Harry Potter type flashback because it's like, oh, it's Dad's time at school and like all the cool things he did with the people who are like still relevant now, but they're like the legends in the cooking arena. And so yeah, I just really enjoyed that show. I thought I would mention that. Kat, won't you mention the first one you watched?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I watched a lot of shit. The 3 that I'm going to bring up as like ones that really stood out to me that we didn't cover. The first one is Kakuriyo, which I know I talked about a lot in our impressions episode because I really thought it was a decent show. And probably if it hadn't aired during spring, we may have even covered it because it's pretty good, but like there just wasn't room. It's a really solid reverse harem show. Yeah. It's basically like this human in a yokai world. And there's all these pretty guys, you know, and they all want to bang her, but like she's kind of making her own way and like has her own restaurant and all of that. And it doesn't feel like too sexist in the way they cover it. And I don't know, every time I watch an episode of it, I'm just in love with it and I enjoy it a lot. And so I think if you like reverse harem shows at all, you should definitely check it out because it's definitely worth a watch. So, yep.
All right, my second one was a little show called Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online. I thought this show was pretty enjoyable for like a Sword Art Online show. It had such a different thing going for it. Len, who was like the cutesy like little main character, was like such a fun character, both in and outside of the game. I liked both like sides of her personality a lot. The second half of the show got into a lot of like ridiculous over the top drama that is like par for the course for Sword Art Online, unfortunately. But the battles themselves, like the game, was still fun to watch, and they introduced a new friend for Len in the second half named Fuka, who was so much fun because like she just like was all about having fun in this game. Like when she chose weapons, she just wanted something that was awesome and like had a lot of firepower. So she just like had akimbo grenade launchers as her weapons, and she used them in like really interesting and fun ways. And like her enthusiasm for playing the game with Len was just really infectious. And so I also just thought this was like well worth watching by the end of it. So I would recommend checking that out. Even if you don't like SAO, I would recommend checking that out. And just like, don't worry about like the middle of the season when they introduce some like really stupid plot. Like, just kind of try to ignore that and enjoy it for the like the battles. And like, if you were like a big fan of PUBG or Fortnite or other like battle royale like MMO games, like you might get something out of this, I would say.
Man, speaking of Fortnite, Bcom, have you started a new season yet?
Not yet.
Oh, you fucking loser. Get in there already.
Calm down.
Leo's like so gung-ho because he finally got me to play on Xbox the other day, and we won our first match together.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we won our first squad match. In a squad match is 4 people. There's only 3 of us, so we did a no-fill. So we did a 3-man win and won the whole fucking thing. It was amazing.
It was pretty great.
Yeah, and it's changed so much. But anyways, all right, back to anime.
Okay.
All right, Kat, your second show.
Major the Second. Like, so there are 2. Both of these other ones I'm going to mention are baseball anime. So...
Yeah.
The first one is Major the Second. I really like this show. I was afraid that it was just going to be a copy of the original Major, but like they totally switched it up. They have the main character as the catcher and the side character as the pitcher, and that's I don't think there's any other baseball anime, and there are a lot of baseball anime like that. Like almost all baseball anime are all about the pitcher, so it's really unique. I like the characters. You see them struggle a lot in ways that are nothing like the first Major. Because like in the first Major, he's totally...
Have they ever done any other position?
Other than pitcher? I don't think so. I don't think I've ever seen another baseball anime where the main star of the show isn't a pitcher.
Coming from playing softball, catcher makes sense because that's what I played as the second option.
Second part of the
other
battery.
position, you don't get the same action. Maybe first base is then would be after that. After that, it's just like anybody, maybe shortstop. And then
I would say shortstop, yeah.
Completely random.
Maybe center field if you want to do an outfielder.
Then it's mostly random.
But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, like the struggles that like the main character goes to are really relatable, and they're nothing like the struggles of like the first Major. Because in the first Major, he's just so naturally gifted at baseball that like he has other struggles that he goes through, but like he is very naturally gifted. And in this one, like the main character just isn't, and he has to deal with that and like the pressure of like his father being so good at baseball as opposed to him who's just not as naturally gifted. And it's a really good show. Like if you like sports anime, you should at least try it out a little bit.
Yeah, I started watching the first couple episodes of the original Major, and I'm really enjoying it so far as well.
That is
so I would recommend that too,
also
for sure.
amazing. Yes, because I've watched all of the original as well, and it is awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to try and slowly work my way through it. So, okay, last show I watched outside of the show, no surprise to anyone, called Horse Girls Pretty Derby.
Oh my god.
So this show is like by the end it was really solid. Like honestly, like my faith in PA Works as a studio now is like at an all-time high because like the way they handled this goofy show. I just loved all the stupid gags. Like every carrot gag had me just laughing on like so much. Like whenever they went out to dinner and like were eating like gourmet like jus de carrot or like drinking it with their meals out of like champagne glasses, I was laughing so hard. Like,
okay, what if I run up behind you and start rubbing your thighs?
Okay, so that is the main. That is by far the biggest issue with this show is that the creepy trainer like he came in the beginning and like stayed through to like the very final scene of the anime. He was doing something like that to like the next generation of
girls.
Are you serious? Yes. Yes.
Dude, fuck that.
And
That's
so-
so bad.
One of the things I have to say is that, like, one thing that happened that was kind of hilarious was that the Umamusume Pretty Derby, like, producers asked their fans to stop drawing lewd fan art of horse girls
But they
because it was, like,
knew.
offending the owners.
They knew that
I know,
was going to
exactly.
happen. Like, you can't just be like,
They
we had
did.
no idea that drawing moe characters based on these was going to cause this. Of course that was going to happen.
You are so correct.
Of course that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's dumb
yeah.
as hell.
And especially when they have a character in the anime who is feeling up these girls, like their legs. It's like, come on. I feel like they felt they had to say something to, like, appease the horse owners who were complaining about this stuff, probably. Because, like, they can't be this, like, disingenuous. Like, they have to know, like, this is what's happening. Like, it's going to happen. Like, I don't know. But anyway, like, I really like the dynamic between the two main characters, Special Week and Silent Suzuka. It was really fun to watch them, like, be like a really friendly and, like, but also competitive rivalry over the course of the season. And I liked that they changed actual history. So Silent Suzuka, who was injured in a race in real life and then, like, could never race again, in the anime she gets to race again, and it's adorable and it's sweet.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a really fun time, this anime. It's goofy, it's weird. Some people might not be able to get over, like, the weird, like, horse girls being human and horse thing. But, like, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was well presented. So, yeah. Recommend that as well. But, yeah.
that's
Oh,
nice.
Kat's got one more.
Oh, yeah, Gurazeni. Gurazeni is a show about basically like a middle of the line baseball player. Like, it's actually just about professional sports and how it is to be a professional sports player when you are not, like, the top star on the team, and all of the, like, statistics and things that go on in professional sports, which I think is really interesting. And it's something that's never been done as a show before. And so it's definitely worth checking out. I will say, the animation is not the best. There are parts where they do some 3D animation, and I'm just like, why? But, like, as a show, it's really good. And it's something that is very unique and hasn't been done before. And it needs to be spotlighted for that reason. So,
Yeah,
Yep.
that show's, like, exactly up my niche as well, because, like, I am a big baseball statistics nerd for sure. So, like, I loved hearing about this.
Nerd.
Huge, like, yeah, huge baseball stat nerd. So, like, hearing all about all this stuff in an anime was like, wow, I can't believe they made something about this. It's so weird, but I'm glad that they did, because it's a nice thing for me, at least. if nobody else is gonna watch it, I will.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
So, but
Is there anything else?
no, I think we can then move on to our final scores
Oh, yeah.
for all the shows we followed throughout the season. So let's kick it off with Golden Bone Mooey. Yeah, this show, for me, it's screwed up in setting the expectations, because, like, we all started off thinking, like, okay, this is going to be like a historical adventure drama, and then, like, as the relationship between a Serpa and Immortal Sugimoto is going to have some comedy elements to it, and, like, some of, like, maybe him discovering, like, the ways of the Ainu village and all that is going to have more comedy, and, like, it played that for, like, the first 5 episodes, and then at the halfway point it just became, like, toilet humor, like, dick jokes, constant, like,
come
like
on, it
slapstick
was
stuff.
hilarious. And, like, it never stopped.
It
Never stopped
overdid
being a historical adventure drama. It just added this, like, slapstick, like, comedy element to it. It didn't stop being
Whereas
the
you
one
put it
thing.
become toilet humor, which was
Yeah.
still funny.
Yeah.
It can be, yeah. It's just like when you start with, like, it was just like about the ratio of those things, because, like, when it started with the ratio of, like, lots of serious historical, like, drama and, like, learning about the Ainu and learning about, like, the ways that a Sirpa hunts and, like, feeds herself and, like, makes food, all of that stuff, and then there's, like, some humor, like, oh, like, you think that miso is poop, ha ha ha, it's, like, kind of funny, like, but, like, then it was just, like, so many dick jokes. It was ridiculous. Like, every episode was another dick joke. I was like, I don't know. I just, like, I don't have time for dick jokes in anime. Like, I've heard every dick joke in the book. I don't need more.
Oh my
Like, you know,
goodness.
I just wanted more of, like, really cool, like, historical facts about the Ainu and about, like, the war in like Manchuria and stuff, like between like the Russians
but that's
and
not the
Japanese.
anime that it is.
Yeah,
It's a different anime.
I know, but like I thought for the first 5 episodes that it was that anime, and then
it's
it
not.
wasn't.
It's a different anime.
And so that's
Correct.
why it was like kind of like not like the rug was pulled out from under me, but like it just shifted the landscape enough that I was like, oh, this is weird. This is not what I expected. So yeah,
Well,
I gave it a 5 out of 10 in the
and
end.
that's so harsh, though. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, I do get that it had a change in tone, but like, it's not like it took away from what it was. It just was more. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with the show. There were points in this season where I was just hysterically laughing, and I loved it. I enjoyed this show so much. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Nice. Also, I'm going to go higher, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Damn.
Basically because the show changed up how it's going to be halfway through. You think one thing, it turns out to actually have much more humor than I thought it was going to be, and everybody else did. And after I got over this shock and reevaluated it, I realized I really enjoyed this show.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I love the adventure. I love the action. I love the face harm that comes every
Yes,
goddamn
the
episode.
face harm.
It's so good. I got to keep going with it. So I give it an 8. So solidly, we know season 2 will happen between Kat and me alone. So
Pretty much.
So let's move on to the next show, Legend of Galactic Heroes. I'm the only one who didn't like it.
Well, why don't you start it off then?
It's Kat.
Yes. So our next one is Legend. So then our next one is Legend of the Galactic Heroes. So I gave it a 7.5 because the graphics are a huge improvement from the original, like a huge improvement. And some of the scenes that they added from the books are awesome. Like, it's awesome to see those animated. But they also cut like a lot of the story, like at the end of the show with the whole thing with the planets that we were talking about. And like, I don't know. I didn't like that they cut all of that out and made it all vague. And I don't know. And I also am not sure, like, where they actually ended the season was not a good ending point, at least not to me. And so I take points off for that.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 7.5. And I've always been worried from the beginning that it was going to like fuck up with the like amount of content versus the amount of time that they're going to have to get through all of the content. And like them cutting it off at this point and then like having the movies and then like not having anything planned after the movies just confirms to me more that like maybe this isn't going to work out very good storyline wise. So I don't know.
Yeah, being the guy who knows nothing about this series, like I felt like that was definitely not a good spot to stop. So I gave it a 6 out of 10. I mean, I thought it was good, but the battles are great and the politics managed to hold my interest. It's really just not my thing. So like my guess is not a good thing to go off of. What do you think about Bcom?
So yeah, I thought it was like a really nice graphical rehaul of the original OVAs, and like it was beautiful to see some of the things like from the 80s like recreated with like modern tech and modern CGI that looked really nice. I thought it lacked like a few small touches and like poignant plot moments that I think that they needed to keep in there. They did cover a lot of new ground with some characters in the first few episodes that I thought was really interesting to see, that was not in the original OVAs. So I appreciated that though. But like, yeah, some of like the bigger points that I thought were more important, they kind of dropped the ball on. And like all in all, I'd still recommend watching the original OVAs over this adaptation in general.
Yeah.
I just think they're like a more complete version of the work. Like obviously they're way far ahead, but even the first 15 episodes I think are a more complete version of the adaptation.
I totally agree. I mean, this has better animation, but like other than that, the original is superior. So
I'm really looking forward to like seeing what the movies are like on a movie budget. Will the animation be even more stellar? I hope it is. Like, But even so, like, I still really enjoyed this. It was fun having watched the original, like the first arc of the original series, like the first 26 episodes, and then watching this like right after. And I would give it an 8 out of 10. I just think it makes a few missteps in certain areas that keep it from being like a masterpiece like the original.
Wow. So the next show, Yotsuiro Biyori, I will give this a 7 out of 10. For what the show is, they nailed it. I mean, it's very good. But I feel like they could have gone into the backstory on some of the other characters more. I'm still there. You guys already know. It kills me about the main blonde character twins, whoever they are. Like, I'm like, what the hell is their backstory? And we still don't know anything about it. But anyways, one of my favorite shows involving cooking, even though I would eat almost none of it. So,
you wouldn't eat any of it?
What did you guys think?
Oh, Leo, I don't know what to do with you.
The sweets, yes, unfortunately, but they're sweets, so sugar's bad for you. But the rest, anything else, no.
You are such a picky human being. How are you alive? Like, because you cannot eat like over 50% of the food on this planet. How are you alive, Leo?
I don't know. You have to ask my mother that. She doesn't even understand at this point. So
you're gonna die of a heart attack because you don't eat any fruits and you don't eat any vegetables. And then we're gonna have to go find another host. And what the fuck are we gonna do?
Oh my god, I'm not gonna die that early. God damn, give me at least another 10 years. Good God.
So I'm basically with Leo. I also ended up on a 7 out of 10 score for this show. I also think like as far as cooking shows go, like this was one of the better ones I've seen. Even though the characters like didn't have deep backstories, I felt that each of their personalities was really well rounded out and like really discernible from each other. Like I liked every one of these like cooks like for a different reason. Like I loved Gure and his like just enthusiasm. I loved like Nikao and just like his just like determination to make like his desserts like better and better and better. Tokitaka, like I said, is like I could take him or leave him. He's nice, you know, he's quiet. He makes his pottery. He's a nice boy, but whatever. And Sui, he loves cats, and I love cats too, so I like that. But yeah, like in the end, I think the drawbacks are just not having like as complete of a story as I would have maybe wanted. As an episodic show, it kind of works. I feel like Leo said it kind of dropped the ball a little bit on character arcs. And yeah, the animation was really nice. And the food looked delicious, which is the most important thing for a food anime. So yeah.
I love this show. Like I had a ton of fun with it. The food all looked amazing. I even made a curry based on that one recipe, like in the summer curry.
Yeah.
I made basically like my version of that because I have all that shit from like my garden, and I was like, well, sure, then I'm gonna make it. So like I made it. It was good.
You have your own garden?
Yeah, I have my own little garden area, and I make like I like grow tomatoes and eggplant and cucumber and stuff, and so I had most of that, and so I, like most of the stuff, like most of the vegetables in that recipe. Oh, you're such a fucking bitch! Shut your mouth. And so I just took them all.
I'm sorry that Hershey bars don't grow in her
I
garden.
know. Yeah.
Oh, I don't even want to even Hershey bar. God damn.
Oh my god.
You are such a fucking picky human being. How did your mother keep you alive as a child? Like she should have been like, listen, you're gonna have to eat this shit. I don't give a shit what dumb noises you make in the back of your throat while you eat it. You're gonna eat it. Like she should have been like that. It wasn't
just like I made a noise in the back of my throat. It was like literal vomit if you tried to force something on my throat. She should have been like,
well, too bad for you. You're gonna eat it anyway. And eventually
you're just going to wither and die. No, mom is a great cook, so she figured it out. So good for her.
Oh, she did you a disservice by not being tougher with you on that. I feel bad. I feel bad for your mom, and I feel bad for whoever has to cook for you in the future. Anyway, but yeah, so I made a curry based on that, and I really enjoyed it, and it was really good. And I think I'm going to actually keep that recipe in rotation. So I really loved it. You're right that it didn't have like a ton of deeper plot, but for me, it was kind of like one of those shows, sort of like Euro Camp, where like I just enjoyed it because it was fun, you know. So for me, it was an 8 out of 10. So
okay, cool. All right, the next one, Steins Gate Zero. I'll just say, like, of course, this anime is ongoing, so it's like a little weird to score it now. But like, I always score things as I'm going because it just gives me a basis, like, or a baseline to go off of. Like, so if the second half of this show ends up being good, like, or great, I have to remember, like, wasn't necessarily in love with the first half, and that's the case here, where just on the first half of the show, I would say it's like a 6 out of 10 right now. I think it's just really slowly paced for what it is, just kind of wallowing in sorrow and depression of Okabe. And it's just too over serious, whereas like the first series was like so much more joyful and fun. And it just doesn't have space for those moments because we have this like plot that we know happens and like all of this history and baggage with Kurisu and AI Kurisu. And like, I liked the idea of AI Kurisu. I thought she was really fun, but then like for the middle of the show here, like she's kind of gone away a bit and not been as big a part of things. And it's been kind of boring without her, honestly.
I agree. But you've also lost me at the same time.
Yeah, basically.
well,
So I don't know. Like, I don't have much else to say. I am curious to see how the second half plays out. I just think the second half of the first Steins Gate was like obviously the best half of that show. So I would expect something similar this time, but I don't know if they can reach those same heights again. We'll have to wait and see.
well, what did you get?
Kat?
What did you end up giving it? Did you say? I don't think you did.
6 out of 10.
Yeah.
6 out of 10.
Yeah, so I also thought it was overly serious, but it has these weird swing points where it'll go from being super serious to like, we need to insert some happiness into this anime. And so they'll like all of a sudden go to a joke or like some sort of weird perv moment and then go back to the serious. And it's a weird, it's like this anime is bipolar kind of. And it's also overly dramatic, kind of like a soap opera. And I don't know, like it's not even genuine drama. It's just like da-na-na, like I don't know. And it wastes a lot of time. Like the one episode we just went through where they literally wasted an entire episode on a song. And it had no point.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
Miyari suddenly having giant boobs out
Yes.
of nowhere.
Yeah, that was so weird.
Yes.
That's such a weird choice. Why do that?
And so I also gave it a 6 out of 10 because I'm just not loving it.
All right. Yeah. Not loving it. I will give it a definite 4 out of 10 because I can just not get into the show. It might be Rintaro's dramatic acting that bothers me, or the fact my brain did a purge of the first Steins Gate after watching it, and I can't get back into what is actually happening now. So I know I'm disappointing some people about the very popular series, but it is what it is. I just cannot grasp this show. I do not give a shit. It's so random. It's just like you're like, oh well, this happens to this, and I'm like, what? I don't. Whatever. But next show, we can talk about where everybody hates it except for me.
Okay, so I don't hate it. I'm disappointed. It's like when you have your kid and you're like, I'm not angry at you. I'm just disappointed, right? Like, that's how I felt about our next show.
No, I've never had a kid, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, but like, you've taken care of
Also,
kids.
the show is Doreiku.
Yeah,
for
you've
anybody
taken care of
who
kids.
wants
Like,
to
you
know.
babysat at some point. Like, you know, when like the kid you're babysitting comes to you and they're like, they've got like mud all over their face and they've like made a mess and they're like, are you mad? And you're like, no, I'm just disappointed. That's how I felt about Doreiku. Like, I gave it a 4 out of 10 because like I was expecting something better and it just wasn't that. I think we can all agree it wasn't very good. It wasn't like the worst show ever, but it wasn't good. Like it just dropped it dropped the ball. It wasn't intellectual at all like I wanted it to be. It was just
I think there was a worser show this season. And I give Doreiku a 6 out of 10. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I like the cleverness and the characters in the show. I like that the show made me try to guess who was going to do what next. the subject matter was a little touchy for some people, and I know that's why a lot of people hated it, and that's okay. But I do recommend that everybody give it an episode or two, and then you can decide what you think about it from then on. Just don't be like Bcom, caught up in all the hate. That's what I feel like it was.
Yeah. So this is one of the worst anime I've ever watched. It's a 1 out of 10, easily.
Oh, fuck.
God.
It
Laying
has
that dick
no
on the table.
plot line to
You're
speak
saying,
of. It has,
like, even it looks just awful. Like, you're just
it
even
does look
saying,
awful. The soundtrack is terrible. The animation is god-awful most of the time.
It's fine.
Character designs are garbage.
Okay,
like, everything. I hated everything about this anime, Leo. This is what you don't understand.
Like, what's really... We all know why you didn't like it. Don't pick on the rest of it just because you didn't like it.
No, okay, there are a lot of reasons I did not like this show. A lot of it is because, like, it had no message to speak of at all. And it just...
Message is not entirely important.
I mean,
all the time.
It is, and that's why I was disappointed in it. But, like, also, like, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I don't know. It was...
Yeah, I mean, like, I have other number ones. Like, there's other really bad shows, too, that I dislike for other reasons. But, like, also, yeah, like, when you're gonna invoke slavery in an anime and do it for fun... Yeah, when you're gonna invoke it...
And it wasn't for fun.
It was absolutely for fun. They had fun with slavery in this anime. That's what they did. That's what it was about.
What
it was
people
totally
would
about having fun with the idea.
For abusing slavery, you're misinterpreting liking and abusing.
They were having fun with the idea of playing around with slaves and what you can do with that. And they went way beyond what they needed to. They showed no class or dignity whatsoever in doing it. And in the end, they had nothing to say about it except that the slave owners should have freed all of the slaves.
Agreed. They had nothing to say about it, but it was still entertaining, and they landed on a positive point at the end.
And I think one of the other big problems with the show was that, like, you know, all of the mind games, like, just they weren't entertaining to me because, like I said, like, most of the time throughout the series they were just ass pulls at the last second. And so we don't get to see, like, people actually battle people with wits. It was just like, oh no, I cheated and won every single time. And it was just got boring and repetitive. And then the second half of the series just got weird, and they changed villains around, like, haphazardly. And, like, I didn't care about any of the villains, and I definitely didn't care about any of the main characters because they're all assholes, except with maybe the exception of a.a, but I have reasons that I've argued that she's an asshole as well. But, like, honestly, I just hate all these people, and I hate this anime. Like, I don't know what else to say.
She's the hero. She's the best.
Yeah, but she's not a hero. She's somebody who takes slaves, and I can't accept that as a hero.
Oh, man.
She's someone who is interested in slavery because it might lead to something interesting in her life.
I don't think the show was about slavery, really. I don't think that was their, like, end goal. I don't think they really had an end goal for it. I think it's
that's
like,
even worse than.
Unfortunately, this is another show where, like, you're not supposed to think about it too much. We're just going to do something fun. Like, in a social experiment, what would happen if we introduced these like SCMs or whatever they were called into society? What would happen? I think that's the better way to put at it. But, you know, that's my opinion. That's your opinion. So.
Yeah, I guess I would say it didn't have many smart, like, answers for what would happen in that situation. So yeah, it was disappointing.
Yeah. So going on to each other's judgmentalness. Let's talk about Hisone to Masotan.
Oh yes, let's do
it. All right, I'm first up. I gave Hisone to Masotan a 4 out of 10 because I begrudgingly kept watching this series only because it was Bcom's luck. I felt like the end kind of saved it a little bit because the action was good, and mostly because the stories, most of the people's stories got tie up in the end. Not that it was okay.
What? You thought their stories
got
tied up at the
loops.
end?
There's some big loops.
What, Leo?
There were some fucking big loops, cat. Okay. But all in all, there's something else out there you should be watching rather than this show anyways. So Yeah, you guys go ahead. I feel like some got some good wrap ups. Other ones just got they got none. It was fucking awful. But
what did you give it,
guys
Leo?
can take
I don't know. I
from
don't remember
there.
if you said it or not.
4 out of
He
10.
did.
Okay.
4 out of
Sorry.
10.
Yeah, yeah. It's
so
bad.
Hisone to Masotan.
Don't
is a
watch
show
it. Watch something else.
I expected the show to be better than it was, obviously, based on the pedigree, based on the studio bones, like based on director. Like I expected this show to be a lot better and have like a really like discernible message and to be a lot of fun. Like I expected it to be like a show about like fighter pilots, like dogfighting and stuff. And we got like barely any of that in the entire anime. And that was really disappointing to me as well. Because like when they did show fighter pilots like in CGI and stuff, it looked great because it's Studio Bones animating like CGI fighter like jets. And it kind of tried to tell a story about women in the workplace and like the sacrifices that they have to make for their career in like the military, and like the shit that they get from the guys that are like there. But like everything that they did undercut those messages at different points. And so it just left me with like a bad taste in my mouth and just like extremely disappointed. So I'm with Leo. I give this a 4 out of 10 at the end of the day.
It's funny because you guys seem to be less angry at this show, and yet I'm the one who gave it a 5 out of 10. I don't know. So,
and you have been the angriest so far.
So for me, the biggest problem with any show is if it doesn't end well. Like if it just leaves you hanging, like at the end of the day, it pisses me off. And this is what this show did. Like the end message of the show that they were trying to hammer home the entire thing. At the end, they just sort of garbled it, and it ended up being.
They had a message.
Yeah, like that women in the workplace.
The
that women can like both work in the workplace and have a family, basically, and have like love in their life. That was supposed to be.
I felt like they butchered the shit out of that. So I was hoping that wasn't the fucking message.
They fucking garbled it all to hell. but I could have even forgiven that and given it like a 6 or even a 7, maybe. If they hadn't just completely fucked up the end, and they just never showed how she got out. They're just like, well, eventually she got out, and you don't know how, but like it all turned out in the end. Like that's some bullshit, and it pissed me off, and so it gets a 5 out of 10 from me. It wasn't even that the show was that bad in terms of animation, and it wasn't even like it wasn't entertaining. Like I was entertained for most of the show, but like the ending was not good at all. So 5 out of 10.
All right.
I will say the last 5 minutes of the last episode was like awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
bad.
about it.
Yeah.
So
next show, Megalo Box. So we talked a lot about this earlier because we talked about the final episode. So we won't talk so much here. I will say, yeah, like the show let me down narratively because like I thought it was going to be more than just like two guys who really want to fight each other, and it ended up not really being about any more than that. It didn't end up being about Joe coming from the slums, like coming from like nothing and like rising to the top. It like was basically that was all window dressing by the end of the story, but like despite all that, it just killed it in every aesthetic department. Like the soundtrack, I just cannot repeat how awesome that soundtrack is. And just like the animation was really good at times. It had a propulsive momentum through like much of the show that it kept me going, kept me into it. And like, I just was like on the edge of my seat. I wanted to watch this show every week. It just let me down in the end story wise. So even despite that, I'm still giving it an 8 out of 10.
Wow.
I just had a lot of fun with this show. And like maybe that's a bit generous. I don't know. Maybe I'll regret that score someday. But like for now, that's like when this show hit its highs, the highs were so high that carried it to a higher score for me, essentially.
I mean, I guess I gave it a 6.5. Like the feel and style of the show is awesome. I agree with you. Like they were like the style of it, like the music and everything are awesome. But like I just said, I have a thing with shows that don't give you a good ending. And this show shot the bed in the ending. It did. It shot the bed. And it pisses me off when like at the end, I'm like, why did I even watch this whole thing? In the end, like you didn't give me an end. It pisses me off when shows do that. That's what this show did. So because of that, I can't give it a 7. I can't give it an 8 because it didn't give me an ending. So it's a 6.5. So.
Ouch. Oh man, I feel like it hurts. So I'll be generous and I'll give it an 8 out of 10. But that's only because I think it has very many positive things about it. Starting off with negatives, it stretched my sense of disbelief a little too much at the end there. I said earlier on, like it's metal colliding against your head. That's not going to work. But you forget about that and you go on and whatnot. But then like Yuri at the end, like it's a fucking skin graft. That metal is a skin graft, and he gets it ripped off, and like he recovers in a day, and then a couple days, and then he gets back into the ring, and then he's able to fight and whatnot. And that's just awful. He shouldn't be able to do that. But then again, the Kill soundtrack and just the overall look of this show was fantastic. I loved the fights. I thought they were pretty much all pretty great. I don't really have too much of a problem with any of them. So I'm still sticking with the 8 out of a 10. So it's a high rated show for me.
All right.
Cat's like, whatever, you fuckers.
So the next show is Wotakoi. Should we all say our scores at once?
Okay.
We all gave it a 5.
3, 2, 1.
5 out of
10.
So this show
Now everybody can explain
this
why.
show let me down hard. Like I expected, because it was what's that block called? Bcom, that I always forget the name of it.
Noitamina block.
Because it was a Noitamina show, I was like, okay, this is going to be like Recovery of an Anime Junkie or Recovery of an MMO Junkie, except better. Like it's going to be like have an actual ending. It's going to be like that show, except it has an actual ending. That was my assumption going into this show. And so I was really excited for it. In the end, it was slightly better than Recovery of an MMO Junkie. It was like a slightly better clone of it.
Correct.
But it didn't have an ending. And like I just said with the last 2 shows, you fucking don't give me an ending, I'm going to be pissed off. So 5 out of 10.
Ooh, I totally agree. 5 out of 10. Disappointed the relationship basically did almost no progression through the whole show. Hanako is best girl. If you find a Hanako in real life, keep her. Defend her, keep her for yourself. Honestly, one of the most lifelike, believable characters I have ever seen, because she actually represents real life otaku female in a sense. Am I wrong, Kat?
I would say that's.
Am I close?
I would say that's accurate. Like the characters.
Okay.
Kind of have like realistic tones to them that none of the characters in MMO Junkie have. So like I would say in that way it's a success. Like in a lot of ways it is a better clone. It just didn't give us an ending.
And one of my favorite things about her was the flaws that were written into her character. That was like, oh my god, this is a real fucking character. Like it made me fall in love with her. And she's maybe a sub character at some point. / main, arguable.
She's like the second couple.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like Jesus Christ, it just makes me think of real life Hanako. Oh yeah, forever. But 5 out of 10. So Bcom, what do you think?
Yeah, it was like an average show for me. It had some really relatable moments, like some of the conversations between Narumi and Hanako about boys' love were just hilarious. And I know there's a lot of people who are laughing about that in real life, just saying like, oh, that's the same discussions that we have on like Discord and stuff, like sometimes, like, and that's great. Like, I'm glad that people can relate to that. Like, but like, I think my biggest problem with the show was that I couldn't relate to either of the guys, the 2 main guys, at least.
I'll agree completely with you on that one.
Like Hirataka, who's like so closed in and shut off, but he's somehow good at like every single type of video game as well. Like it's kind of unrealistic and like I don't know. And then just like gets Narumi based on having her as a childhood friend and then just asking, and then doesn't evolve from there whatsoever. They make very little strides towards being able to understand each other more and being closer in their relationship, but it's not enough by the end. And then the other guy, what is his name? I'm just blanking. Taro?
Yeah, Taro.
Yeah. Kabakura, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he had that episode near the beginning where he treated Hanako like total shit.
Yeah.
And ever after that, like I never really forgave him. Like I could never really get back to that.
So
like
when I saw that
called
episode,
her old hag.
when I saw the
horrible.
episode where he you learn that like last Christmas he did nothing with her and was a shithead to her. That's when I gave up on him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this relationship is doomed. Like, even if they get back together now and they have a good relationship, eventually she will get tired of it and she will leave. That's what I assume.
But not obviously, because afterwards she's still staying at his place and they're still sleeping together.
Like I said,
eventually
it's going to take them like 10 years. It's going to be one of those things where they're married and they have like a kid and a half and then they get divorced or something.
Oh, you think?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
was
happened.
that season 3 and 4?
And like I will say about Recovery of an MMO Junkie, like at least I really liked both people in the main couple in that show. Like I liked both of them and I really wanted both of them to get together. And in this show, like I didn't really care by the end because like I couldn't really root for either guy because I didn't really believe in either of them.
True.
So
I agree.
It just felt bad.
I agree.
But I liked all of this stuff that they talked about. Like I liked the setting that it was in. I liked the idea of the show. It's just they failed me with the characters. And also sometimes the animation just looked kind of janky.
I didn't think the animation was bad, but the ending.
The backgrounds were very plain. The animation, the facial animation was okay. There was some good facial animation throughout, but otherwise, I'll just give this show like a slight pass. Like I said, like an average, like 5 out of 10.
Ouch.
So, Leo, what's this next show?
This next show is called Hinamatsuri.
Nice.
And I would just flat out say it's a very funny series. It's actually probably better animated than it needs to be.
It really is, yeah.
It's amazing. And I gave it an 8.5 because it is that stinking good. It is.
That's just because you have a soft spot for it, Leo.
I have a soft spot for it, but I hyped it up. And then we went into it. And then I was like, yes, the jokes are landing. It's amazing. Everybody's getting it. And then like the animation came into it. And I was like, this looks better than it needs to look. So I was just like, oh, my God, this show's so good now. So that's why it gets the 8.5. Oh, Bcom.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8. Like, I also really was won over by the series and all of its characters. Like, I had, like, little quabbles here and there, but nothing, like, really to report back on. Like, I don't know. It's just... I didn't love the way the show ended necessarily, like, as a cliffhanger. But if we find out we're getting a season 2 soon, then I'll be okay with that.
Yeah, as I've told you, there is an immense amount of material out there for this also. So
there's a possibility we could.
Definitely.
Yeah, like, I just really enjoyed all of the main characters in this show. They were really funny, and almost always the jokes landed for me. Like, just a few instances where they didn't, like, throughout the entire series. So yeah, just really, really solid comedy.
Yeah, a lot of the jokes are getting to know the characters, and then they play a joke off that. So that's why it's so good.
Yeah.
Kat, what'd you think?
Okay, so I don't love it as much as you guys. I give it a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed this, but without, like...
That's it. Kat's out. She's not on the podcast anymore.
That's a good score. Like, I enjoyed it. It was a fun, lighthearted comedy. Like, it had me going. I laughed a lot. I enjoyed it week to week. It just wasn't, like, my personal favorite. And there were times where it got a little too serious and I was, like, bored. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I love the Yakuza parts the most. Those are my favorite ones. And I'll definitely watch a season 2.
Especially like being...
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially like being trapped in barrels of
yes.
cement.
Yes.
Please say it's cement, Leo. You're killing me.
It's almost sounded like you said semen when you said it that way.
Exactly. Please don't say cement.
Because then it sounds like you just said trapped in a barrel of semen, which just makes me think
say concrete?
Of some creepy, weird porn. We don't want that.
Speaking of creepy, weird porn, Darling in the Franxx is our last show.
All right, yeah, let's finish this on just a saddish note.
So, as we just talked about for like 45 minutes earlier, yeah, this show just felt like a rehash of a lot of old Gainax shows and Trigger shows, and that's because they brought back like a whole bunch of those staff from those old shows to work on this show. And it just felt like the people at the top did not have a vision that made sense, or they just didn't have a vision that was as cool as what they'd ever made before. And I felt they overly relied on things that they'd made before to like hype up the audience. And I think for some people that worked, but I don't know, for me who has seen those shows and loves them, like it didn't work. And like it just does literally nothing better than those old shows. And that's like the worst thing I could say is that just, I don't know, like I hate to be the guy who's like, forget the new thing, go watch the old thing. But in this case, it really is the thing you should do. Like, forget about this show, go watch Kill la Kill, go watch like Gunbuster, go watch Gurren Lagann, go watch any of those old shows, Evangelion, which is ripped off like to high heaven. And but like in the end of the day, they'll sell some 02 merchandise because they made one good character design.
They'll sell a lot of 02 merchandise.
Yeah. All in all, I think you're right, Bcom.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 10 at the end. I think this is like below average, honestly, because of all the reasons we talked about.
Cat is generous as shit.
Well, okay, it's a well-made show. Like, they put a lot of work into this show. Like, it's not the...
I don't think so.
They did, though. They did a really good job animating it. Like, they put a lot of work into it. Like, I don't know. It's not the best thing ever. It has a bad ending. It's kind of messy. Like... It was more about, like, the feeling they were trying to convey than the actual story, in my opinion. Like, that's what they were going for. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I debated between a 6.5 and a 7, but I think, like, this will have lasting, like, resonance in the community. I feel like in 2 years, you'll still hear a lot of people referencing this anime because it was so big and, probably like, so hyped.
Newer anime people, yeah. I would assume.
Yeah, and so I don't think it's... I mean, like I said, I don't think it ended well at all. But, like, I also think they put a lot of work into this, and it kind of shows in the animation and everything. So,
are you familiar with Gainax or Trigger's previous shows?
Okay, so this is my personal theory. So I've noticed in all the people I've talked to in the anime community, if you like a lot of mecha shows, then you will hate this anime.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you...
Because you've seen it all before.
Yes.
That's the thing.
If you have not watched very many or almost none at all mecha shows like me, then you won't hate this anime as much. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's because...
It's new.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be a gateway anime for a lot of people. That's true. The best thing I can say about it.
A gateway would be good.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Going on to me...
Kat, did you say your score? Sorry.
I said it had a 7 out of 10 for me. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Woo. All right. I'm going to be pretty blunt. I gave it a 5 out of 10. And my basic, what all I have to say is, have you seen Evangelion and Trigger's past shows? You have? Then you've seen this one also. But I would like to end on a good note. I still enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
So that's why I did not give it the 4 like Bcom did. I gave it the 5 because I felt like it was right down the middle. I still had a good time watching it, but I don't recommend it. There's other things to watch in the meantime.
I really enjoyed talking about it. Oh, I enjoyed covering it.
You can debate the shit out of this thing. It is, great debate material for sure. For sure.
So, Leo, I think you wrote down here what all our favorite shows of the season were. So why don't you list them off?
Yeah, so we all gave rankings for shows. So start with me. Out of my highest ranking, which was Hinamatsuri. So that's obviously what I'm going to recommend. I don't know if the other two are going to recommend what their highest ranking was, but Bcom, you had a 3-way tie.
I did, between Legend of Galactic Heroes, Hinamatsuri, and Megalo Box, which... I all like them for very different reasons.
Correct.
And I dropped all of those down to an 8 for very different reasons too. But I think those were 3 really solid shows this season. You can't really go wrong with any of them, except maybe Megalo Box. But yeah.
Maybe. And Kat, you had one, interestingly, as your highest rated.
There were a
us.
lot of shows this season that were really promising, but there were also a lot of shows this season that like let you down at the end. Like there were a lot of shows that didn't end well, and I don't know if it's because the animators were just tired at the end, and like everyone was just tired, and so we weren't getting the good endings.
And obviously, this one did not let you down at the end. So you fucking loved it.
Yotsuiro Biyori was the highest scored show of the season for me, which surprised me when I first saw it. But yeah, looking back, like I mean, that's the one I scored the highest. I probably would have scored Megalo Box higher if it hadn't shat the bed at the end. But that's its own fault.
Right.
Like, it did that to itself.
So interestingly, is that what you recommend the most?
I mean, throughout the season, like week to week, I enjoyed Megalo Box more. But I just got so upset at it at the end because it fucked me over. So, like, looking back, if I was to say, like, what shows would I recommend most to people from this season?
So did you think this was the best of the season?
Of the shows we watched.
I think it's a fair
of
thing
the
to
shows
say.
that we watched, this is probably the best according to me, along with like
I think that's a good one. Yeah.
It's really good.
I agree with you. Yeah. As a recommendation for sure.
Sure.
All right, well, that's it. Thank you, everybody, all of our listeners, for joining us for another full season of anime. We've got our summer coverage coming up, and we're excited for that. We've already got our first impressions out there for summer, so you can go, or our predictions, for summer. You can go listen to those. We will have our impressions episode coming up in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, remember, you can follow, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on literally every podcast service except Spotify now. Basically,
we're working on it.
If there's another one, let me know. I'll find a way to get our podcast on it. But yeah, we're on Stitcher now as well. So go find us there. And yeah, follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates on our content and memes sometimes, occasionally. And then with that, we will see you in the summertime.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.